Welcome to Crear, Résister, Transform, a festival for feminist movements. We invite you to join us in creating a space that invites and challenges us all to operate from a place of courage, curiosity, and bravery. We have live language interpretation available in this session. Look to the bottom right-hand side of your screen. You will see an icon of a globe, which reads, if you're reading an English interpretation, click on it and select the language you would like to receive interpretation in. So if you'd like interpretation in English, click on English. We also have closed captioning available in this session. Look on the bottom right-hand side of your screen and you'll see an icon which in English reads Live Transcript. Click on it and you will have the option to show subtitles or to view the full transcript. You can also change the size of the text. To do this, click on Subtitle Settings and change to large. If you would like to change your name, click on the Participants button at the top of the Zoom window. Hover your mouse over your name in the participants list on the right-hand side and click on Rename. Enter the name you'd like to appear in the Zoom meeting and click on OK. We invite you to join the global AWID membership family. And to do this, visit our website, www.awid.org, and click to learn more about why you should become an AWID member. Enjoy the rest of the festival.
Bonjour et bienvenue à Crear, Résister, Transform, un festival pour les mouvements féministes. C'est avec joie que nous vous accueillons à cet événement et vous encourageons à nous rejoindre dans les activités du festival qui auront lieu tout au long du mois de septembre. Nous vous invitons à nous rejoindre et à créer un espace qui nous invite à faire preuve de courage, de curiosité et de bravoure. Dans cette activité, nous avons une interprétation simultanée disponible en plusieurs langues. Dans la barre de menu en bas de l'écran, cliquez sur « Interprétation ». Cliquez ensuite sur la langue que vous souhaitez entendre. Pour n'entendre que la langue interprétée, vous pouvez cliquer sur « Muter l'audio original ». Nous avons également des sous-titres disponibles en anglais. Dans la barre de menu en bas de l'écran, cliquez sur « Transcription en direct ». Cliquez ensuite sur « Montrer sous-titres ». Pour lire la transcription complète, vous pouvez cliquer sur « Voir la transcription complète ». Et pour changer la taille du texte, cliquez sur « Paramètres de sous-titres » et choisissez « Large ». Pour changer votre nom après être entré dans une réunion Zoom, cliquez sur le bouton « Participant » en bas de la fenêtre Zoom. Ensuite, faites passer votre souris sur votre nom dans la liste de participants à droite de la fenêtre Zoom, puis cliquez sur « Renommer ». Tapez le nom que vous voulez voir apparaître dans la réunion Zoom et cliquez sur « OK ». Encore merci de votre participation. Nous vous encourageons à partager vos réactions et vos commentaires sur les réseaux sociaux en utilisant le hashtag FeministFestival et taguer l'AWID si vous pouvez. Nous vous invitons aussi à rejoindre la famille mondiale des membres de l'AWID. Pour ce faire, vous pouvez visiter notre site web à l'adresse www.awid.org et cliquer sur « En savoir plus sur pourquoi devenir membre de l'AWID ». Merci et profitez du festival.
Bienvenidos al festival Crear, Résister, Transform. AWID está comprometida con la creación de un espacio virtual que nos invite y desafíe a todos a funcionar desde un lugar de valentía, curiosidad, generosidad y responsabilidad compartida. Les invitamos a crear conjuntamente con nosotros espacios libres de acoso y violencia. Por favor, descarguen y revisen los principios de participación para el festival en awid.org/festival 2021. Tenemos disponible interpretación a distintos idiomas en vivo. Esto varía según cada sesión. Para activarla, en su menú de control, seleccionen el icono de Interpretation, elijan el idioma que quieren escuchar. Para escuchar solamente el idioma interpretado, seleccionen Mute Original Audio, silenciar el audio original de forma que solamente escuchen la interpretación en el idioma español si este es el que desean. También contamos con subtitulado disponible en inglés únicamente, pero si lo desean activar, en los controles para la reunión hagan clic en subtitulado en vivo, Live Transcript. Después hagan clic en Show Subtitle, en mostrar subtítulos. Para ver el subtitulado completo, hagan clic en View Full Transcript, ver subtitulado completo. Para cambiar el tamaño del texto, hagan clic sobre Subtitle Settings, ajustes de subtítulos, y cámbienlo a grande, large. Si desean cambiar cómo aparece su nombre en Zoom, pueden hacerlo también. Para cambiar su nombre, después de entrar a una reunión de Zoom, hagan clic en el botón Participantes en la parte de arriba de la ventana de Zoom. Después, deslicen el ratón sobre su nombre en la lista de participantes que está a la derecha de la ventana de Zoom y hagan clic sobre Renombrar. Escriban el nombre con el que quieren aparecer en la reunión de Zoom y hagan clic sobre OK. Lo más importante, únanse a AWID. Al unirse a AWID se suman un proceso organizativo feminista mundial, un poder colectivo surgido del trabajo entre movimientos y basado en la solidaridad. Ingresen a nuestro sitio web awid.org, membresía, para escuchar las razones por las cuales deberían ser parte de la membresía de AWID, o escríbanos a membership@awid.org. Gracias y continúen disfrutando el festival Crear, Resistir, Transform.
Hello, everyone. My name is Malaka Grant. I'm really excited to be here today, participating in a conversation around pleasure beyond borders. And with us today are some amazing feminists, activists, femmes, just all around badass women. I'm so excited to have on the panel today Lizzie, Lindy, and Yo. You'll get to know them a little bit better right now. But the conversation that we're having today is around pleasure and what that means in individual context around different geographies and cultures and experiences. And so each of these women today is going to be a guide. I'm looking forward to learning from them. I hope you will too. This conversation is a part of a larger conversation from the Pleasure Garden, which is co-organized by HOLA Africa and the Adventures from the Bedrooms of African Women 2021 Working Group. And for more information, you can visit awid.org. And without further ado, I would like to introduce our esteemed panelists today. I would like to ask each of these women to introduce yourselves, just tell us where you're from, and a little bit about your work. And I'll start with Lizzie, if that's okay.
Hi, Malaka. Thank you very much. Extremely honored to be in this space with all of you amazing women. My name is Lizzie Kiama. I am based in Nairobi, Kenya. I work for Disability Trust, an organization that I founded that focuses on disability rights and women's rights. We work around sexual reproductive health rights, and so this conversation is right up our alley. What else was I supposed to say? Forgot it. I hope that was enough.
Well, I know that you work with this ability. So tell us a little bit about what your main mandate is with this ability, and who you serve? What is the community that you serve?
So we work for and on behalf of communities of women and girls with disabilities. Our mandate is to amplify and increase visibility for women and girls with disabilities. Our theory of change, of course, responds to the invisibility of women with disabilities in society. And when we focus on our body of work around sexual reproductive rights, we believe that invisibility is extremely profound and has a direct impact on how women are able to access quality sexual and reproductive health care. So we work around amplifying their voices, building their skills around their rights, and increasing media visibility, because we believe, media is a powerful platform to advance this work.
Awesome. Thank you. Yo, would you tell us about yourself, the work that you do, and your immigration journey?
Hi everyone, my name is Yo, and I am queer feminist from Serbia. I currently trying to live in Mexico. I am in the immigration process, especially this week, where I think everything that is pleasurable for me, everything that it's about my body, my soul, and how I am in the world, it's reduced to if I can get a paper or no. So this is how I'm coming to this space and reclaiming again the body and to be there. And yeah, so is that?
That's perfect. Awesome. Lizzie, I'm sorry. Lindy.
Hi. My name's Lindy. I am a sexual wellness coach and online content creator. I created a company that does coaching and consulting to basically, I guess my mandate would be freedom of expression, which is something I'm very big on, and consent, and basically kind of understanding consent in all contexts. So my company does coaching and consulting. We do retreats to kind of basically just help people understand that they are heard, that they are seen, they're not alone, and to give them the information that they don't necessarily get in school to inform them in making healthier choices from a holistic point of view. I am currently in Ghana, but I'm half South African, half Ghanaian, and yeah, I guess even from a cultural perspective, it's very two different kinds of cultures that have kind of come together. But luckily enough, I have a great support system that is really, really big on pushing the work that I do. So excited to be here. I think these platforms and festivals are exactly why we do the work that we do, because we want to have a greater reach and we want to ensure that people are living healthier. So yeah.
That's amazing. And I didn't know you were half Ghanaian and half South African. That's funny because I'm half African American, half Ghanaian living in South Africa. So I'll be interested to hear your perspective about how all of that overlaps. But I want to ask each of you about, we're here to talk about pleasure, right? And pleasure manifests in many different ways. And for someone like Joe, for instance, you work in the pleasure industry. I call it the pleasure industrial complex. I would like for each of you to just, give us your personal and or professional definitions of pleasure. And, think of it in broad terms. It doesn't necessarily have to be, sexual. Joe, one of the things I found interesting about you is that you describe yourself as resting and enjoying your plants. And I see you've got this huge plant behind you. So whoever wants to go first, whoever's feeling the spirit, just share your definition of what pleasure is.
Okay, I'll take it.
All right.
So as mentioned, excuse me, I think that pleasure for me is just freedom of expression and just freedom. It could be being able to eat absolutely anything and everything I want, going to places that I want to go to without any limitations, especially wearing what I want, because that's how I express myself. So pleasure, the pleasurable things in life are all around my freedom and being able to express myself as such. I guess it also falls into the professional definition for me, because freedom of expression is quite big in the work that I do, and ensuring that people know that they're not necessarily alone with whatever it is that they may feel, whether it's their sexuality or their preference with regards to whether they want to have sex or not, you know, just whatever the case may be. I kind of just push that it is okay, and you are heard and seen. So freedom of expression is definitely what I find as pleasure. And then obviously in a sexual context, it's definitely still freedom of expression. So yeah.
Awesome. Lizzie, I'm going to call on you next.
Great. So I would also agree with Lindy. I think freedom is a big one. But then I think I would also add the ability to be selfish. I think particularly as a mother and a wife, being choosing myself and what it is that I want to do, how it is that I want to express myself, how I want to identify, having that be my decision and having that not be affected by all these external forces around me. And a lot of the time I have to tell myself it's okay to choose me. And unfortunately that means me being selfish. So I think I would say being okay with being selfish.
I want to just expound on that idea a little bit. I was driving, I have 4 kids. My eldest is 16. And we were driving home from school, and my 16-year-old just blurts out, you know, there are certain things I want to do, just like mom, I want to shop for pleasure. And I know that, you know, you're a mother as well. How important do you think it is for, you know, not just your biological children, but, you know, people who look up to you, mentees, to witness you experiencing pleasure?
I think it's super important, and is a constant reminder why I need to be selfish, because my daughter, for example, I'm her, you know, biggest example. She wants to be mommy. As sad as, yeah, I don't get it, but you know, she wants to be me. And I did not grow up seeing my mother. I grew up seeing my mother make tons of sacrifices, some that were not, you know, good for her health, and you know, and it ended up taking a toll on her mental health, on her physical health. And if I can, as hard as it is, if I can continue to choose myself, I think that's an incredible example. And my work really is me trying to just live my life as best as I can, and as unapologetically and as boldly as I can. Difficult as it may be, but yeah, it is part of the work.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy. Jo, what are your professional or personal definitions of pleasure?
First thing that I'm thinking of is how I speak about pleasure in English, for instance, and how I would speak about it in my native language. And it's very different because some of the concepts are so nascent, so new in my own context. So I think in definitions are important as guides, and not to limit our access to pleasure, but as a guide that on what we love, where our boundaries are, what really doesn't make us feel that good, and that we are able to name them for us, but to have that, you know, flexibility and openness around it. I love to know where my desires come from, and I love to understand that a little bit more, what is like authentically mine and what it's really influenced by someone, something else in some other context. But the things that give me the most pleasure, how I see that, is those things that when I give to myself, they shine. So everyone around me can notice, everyone around me can see that I just experienced something delicious. And then they want to explore what what the feeling would be for them. What would be something that will bring that kind of feeling for them. And I think for me, the pleasures are also in that exchange. And yes, how we find that in us and being our own central blessings of creativity, of beauty, then we exchange with others. And I also agree with Lizzie and Lindy about what they shared.
I'm so glad that you brought up, the blessings, because, I read that you say that touch and dance unlocks collective blessings. And I know that in your work, you do pole and sensual dance. So can you tell, I'm really curious about in what ways and what kinds of blessings has touch and dance unlocked? How has that been a conduit, and how have you seen that manifested?
Well, it's very contextual, I have to say. Like it's really a place where we needed to start in my context. I'm really, first of all, grateful that this panel is Pleasure Across Borders, because the context do matter, and where our healing starts and where we are at with it, and how we're still struggling with accessing some of the things that are not only part of the pleasure industrial complex, but what that actually means for us in our healing process, that it's really, yes, contextual. So, where I am, the autoerotic part of knowing your body and reclaiming it from the state, from the oppression, from the wars, was key, especially for women, femmes, and LGBTQI community that has been deprived of all of these things and still is. So in this work, I think we managed to create a space that it's for all generations, that it's not only for people who are comfortable with their bodies, but people who are in their age where they still want to explore, and they're touching their body for the first time in a way that it's really intentional. And so how we do this is to really sensual and slow motions and slow dance and slow touch, that it's kind of also annoying because you really need to be present and it doesn't allow you to go anywhere else. And you spend 2 hours just giving love to yourself, and how that shines in that community with others, it's really visible. So you can notice someone else's transformation and they witness your own. And I see this as not one-time thing. It's a commitment, and in moderation, of course, but that we create this space where trust is built gradually, and also that every single time that you come, it's something new for you and something new to explore, but you're more connected to the collective. So I can share more about it later as well, but this is part of it.
I do have more questions, definitely, because there's a Netflix documentary called Strip and Rise Up. I don't know if you've seen it, and it's very familiar to what you're discussing, but we'll come to that later. I do want to ask, about your work, each of you ladies, how you've, this is a good segue, how you have witnessed pleasure manifesting in others, and do you take pleasure? This is a question for everyone. Do you take pleasure in witnessing other people experience pleasure, either that you've given, or that they're, just experiencing being in your presence, or as a tool that, that you've provided for them? And I want to ask Lizzie this in the context of your work, talking about visibility for disabled, women and girls, and how we often, not even often, just generally in the media, don't see disabled women as desirable, or even as wanting to be desired. So if you could speak a little bit about that.
So I started this photography project as I needed something to present at AWID in 2016, and I thought, can we play around with photography and just take beautiful pictures of beautiful women with disabilities, So dress them up in African fabric, and we really didn't have a budget, so it was just tons of African jewelry and wrapping African fabric, and it was very vibrant, and this was the first time the women that I was working with had taken images to just celebrate, their beauty and just have fun with it. This was in 2016. In 2018, we did another shoot that explored sexuality. And, again, very small budget, so played around with fabric and, showing a little skin there. And it was very playful. And we've been continuously taking photos. And it might not, to donors, it doesn't have any tangible, measurable impact, but I have seen tons of impact. I have seen these young women grow, start their own YouTube channels, focusing on, beauty and talking about themselves. I have seen them go on to impact their communities, being a voice for their communities. We have employed some of these young women within the trust, and they have taken leadership positions. Just concluded Beijing conversations that were happening, Disability Trust work, the advocacy work that we were doing on social media was led by young women with disabilities. And it has been, continuous progress that I have seen these young women taking up space. And for me, that is complete expression of them experiencing pleasure, as much as they are vocal, they are bold, they are expressive, and living life as taking as much space as they want to. And for me, as a mother, that is what I would like to see for my daughter. But particularly as a disabled woman, we're continuously minimized. So, the audacity to take up space, I think, for me, I've done my work. So extremely proud.
Yeah, you should be proud. That's an amazing project. My BFFL told me my pictures were awful. She'll be watching this later. Her name is Lindiwe Rasekoala. And she insisted that, I go get some professional pictures taken. And, just being, I guess, immortalized in film, and just being present, like you talk about, it's such a confidence booster. And so, yeah, so I think that is a fantastic project. And even though, you say there are no measurables, the impact is, they're bold now, they're confident. And something about being in front of a camera and just, being encouraged to love yourself and to be present and knowing that this is going to be immortalized forever is like, it's a pretty badass feeling. So kudos to you. Yeah, that's amazing. Lindy. I'm bringing you in here now. Hi.
I resonate, sorry, before you ask the question, I resonate so much with what Lizzie's saying, because from 2018, I decided that I was going to do a nude photo shoot every year for my birthday. And that is what I forced my friends to do as my birthday present. Don't do anything else, just come naked as you are. And the mind can somewhat be a disability in that it clutches you to societal standards and what beauty is perceived to be. And at the end of every single shoot, everyone feels empowered, they feel sexy, they feel good. And I make sure that the photographer signs an agreement that they're not going to share those images, but it purely is just for them, to look at yourself in a different light, not because of clothing makes you look a certain way or makeup, but just you as you are, beautiful and regal and amazing. And I love that that is what you're able to do for people, because it really does make an impact when you are able to see yourself. I mean, even how I started taking nudes on my own, how I started to see the changes in my body started to make me feel so good about myself. And I was like, I want that for my people. I want my girls and my, people to understand that this is what it makes me feel, so it can make you feel the same way too. And it's not for anybody else, but just for yourself. So I love that, love that. Sorry, none. We can get back to the question.
No, that was a natural segue. That was perfect, because, the question was, what tools have you used to, empower other people to embrace, pleasure? And I think that, I know you have other examples. You've got, all kinds of social media around this, but that's really, really amazing. Like when you said nude shoots, I thought it was just going to be you. I didn't know it was going to be you and your girls, you know, getting down to your skivvies and.
No, literally. I mean, obviously, and some people don't feel completely comfortable to be stalkers, so they'll wear maybe nude underwear, but it's just being able to show your body as you are, and you know, have those images for yourself. Another tool that I guess I use is I guess through expressing the work that I do. So for example, I did 2 videos on OnlyFans on how to correctly create an account. But not only that, I wanted to talk about the dangers around putting yourself out there in such a vulnerable position to get money. And people just think, oh, get naked and you get money and we're rich. And it really does have a psychological impact and effect on how, one, you view yourself, how you view pleasure, and then what your own values and morals are going in, and how they somewhat take a decline based on wanting to make money, and how you have to mentally be strong to not get swayed into doing things that you wouldn't feel comfortable doing just to try and make a quick buck, or quick in inverted commas. So, and it's even something that I've fallen privy to, because in the beginning I said I would never play with myself on camera. I could never do that. And eventually, as I started to feel more empowered, I was like, I want to do more. I want to I want to fully express myself from a sexual perspective, and be okay with doing that on camera for also others to enjoy. But the one thing that I've realized is that the amount of DMs that I get and people sending me emails saying, can you give us tips? I always say, what is your niche? And like Jo said, dancing is the best form of expression in terms of, you know, just feeling light and feeling like you can absorb all your blessings. And I love dancing. That is my niche. When I'm on OnlyFans, how I start is to light some candles and to have a bit of wine and to just dance, because the moment I feel I'm dancing, I feel relaxed and I feel like, you know, I can like properly be fluid and enjoy the experience that I'm about to engage in. And I always suggest doing that prior to sex as well. You know, if you feel like you want to dance and enjoy your body, the moment you start to enjoy your body, you are able to give more of yourself in a sexual engagement because you feel sexy, because you feel good. It's no one else telling you, oh wow, you look amazing like this or like that. It's because you've identified yourself in such a way. So you obviously perform better because you also feel empowered and strong in your feminine beauty, and dance definitely brings that out of you. So I think that dancing is also one of the tools that I give to people, and I say dance naked. Be okay with being naked by yourself, being okay looking at yourself, even if it means taking a mirror and actually looking at your vagina or the different parts of your body that you can't necessarily reach with just the eye, to actually know exactly what it is that other people are seeing. And if you love it first, no matter what, someone else is going to love it. There's a market out there for every single person. And the moment that you are confident in your being, people are drawn to you. So that's one of the tools that I give OnlyFans content creators. Find a niche, dance with yourself naked to get used to being with your body, and enjoying your body. And then just, that's how your confidence kind of grows.
Amazing. That's a really great segue into, you know, the next question that I have is, you know, Lizzie, both you and Lindy use technology. You know, you leverage technology so that, you know, you can build employment skills and increase safe spaces for women and girls. And then Lindy, you've got a smorgasbord. You've got YouTube and Instagram, and now I'm just finding out OnlyFans. And so I want to ask you, Lindy, about the impact of what has happened with OnlyFans and them changing their structure and how that has affected your work. And then Lizzie, I want to ask you about how technology helps you. And then Jo, if you've also got some insights, I would like you to share that as well. But yeah, we know that a few weeks ago, OnlyFans had changed their, I guess, their structure. How does that impact, you know, your work and how you provide the world with pleasure and teaching people about pleasure?
So the beauty of social media and technology is that you can start or change or disrupt existing policies that are there. And the moment they made that announcement, there was complete uproar on social media. It was, how dare you? Countries are taxing these women and men, these creators, and they are exploiting them for the work that they're doing. But now you want to, because it's made OnlyFans popular, you want to kind of withdraw that access, and you are taking away a lot of autonomy and, you know, just being able to make decisions for an empowerment for so many different people. And the uproar made them recline. Like, they have now said that they will not be changing their policies. They have found sponsors and different private organizations that are willing to fund them still continuing as we have been. But prior to that, prior to them saying that they take it back, I thought, okay, how now do I use this platform still to my advantage, but within the confines of the new rules? And I kind of think it was, it kind of made me a little bit happy, because like I said, social media is so powerful that it can really change your psyche. It can really impact your mental well-being if you don't necessarily have the strength to ignore the naysayers. And I feel like for a very long time, I felt kind of under pressure to do things that, like I said, wouldn't necessarily have been on my initial list of things that I do, because I was like, well, people are bored. They were calling me vanilla. There were people who even did like reviews, and they were like, oh, Lindy's so boring. If you want like content, just go to her Instagram, because it's basically the same thing. And I was like, I am expressing myself and being vulnerable and putting myself out there, and other people are coming back and telling me it's boring. But then I had to quickly switch my mind up to be like, I'm not doing it for them. Yes, there's a market, but I'm doing it for myself, and I feel good in the moment. So I had to, you know, kind of coach myself into being okay with whatever people say. But based on the access and how dangerous it can be, I think social media and technology, yes, it makes access more available, but it also makes the information around it more available. And that's why I try and always give very insightful, informative content around experiences, so that people aren't blindsided when they eventually do join whatever they want to do, or engage in whatever they want to engage. Because I think that, unfortunately, like I said, we're not being taught how to correctly have sex in school. We're not being taught how to correctly love ourselves. And me being able to be the resource that is positive, still within the confines of what you want to do and expressing yourself, makes me feel good about myself. So I'm glad that technology has also given me the ability to have such a far reach. Of my 24,000 subscribers on YouTube, my first audience is in the States, but what I really find interesting is that my second biggest audience is from India. And I'm like, how many people in India actually have access to the internet to be constantly on my channel trying to get information? But it just goes to show that there's such a lack that they will go absolutely anywhere. There's people who I even know who were in the township in Alex in South Africa, who would stand by the community library to go and get the data so that they can watch my channel. And I'm just like, that is amazing, because, you know, you're hungry for that information. So I have a responsibility to ensure that I'm giving you correct information that not only serves you, but also informs and educates you. So I am all for social media and technology, because it's helped me reach a broader audience, but it also has helped me try and understand and navigate the dangers around it, so that I can also give that and disseminate that information according to the research that I do, with obviously the help of health practitioners and, you know, lawyers or doctors, whatever the case may be. So I'm all for it.
Amazing. And then Lizzie, you know, same question. And then I really want you to answer within the context of, you know, young women and girls who are coming with an added level of, I guess, vulnerability, being differently abled. In what ways has technology aided your mission in introducing and educating them around pleasure?
Right. So it's important to realize that the disability community globally has been advocating for the use of technology because of the accessibility it provides the disabled community. But for a long time, it was not a priority until the pandemic happened, and everybody was using technology, and suddenly, it was acceptable to incorporate the advocacy that had happened over a number of years from the disability community. Young women with disabilities, particularly the ones that we work with, and really their experience is not unique to them. This is a global experience. Access to opportunities are few and far between as a result of stigma, discrimination, inaccessible systems, bureaucracy, a lack of financial resources. So for us, because part of our mandate has always been to build skills among communities of women with disabilities. In 2018, we listened to young women with disabilities who told us they would like to increase their skills around their digital skills. They wanted us to focus on that. And we did not have any funding. And we got creative and had a face-to-face workshop where we got volunteer trainers to come and introduce the concept of how to build a website, how to be on social media, how to be successful on social media, how to build an audience and things like that. Pandemic happened, and suddenly we got, investments that helped us, focus on building an e-learning platform. Now, building the e-learning platform was not enough because we wanted to reach our communities, and the reality is internet is not accessible. Internet is not affordable. Most of the women we work with are in rural areas. Reliable internet is not the norm. Smartphones and computers, this is not, these are luxuries for majority of the women that we work with. So we had to go back to the funder and say, as much as we've built this thing, it doesn't make sense for us without ensuring that we provide additional support. And that means on a weekly basis, we send data. That means we buy tablets. And because it was a pilot, we were able to work with about 20 women, and we were able to provide each one of them with tablets and actually handhold for them to actively participate on this online platform, have alternative WhatsApp and telephone, measures where we are keeping track. But the interesting thing, it is interesting, but our work with technology impacts also how we build skills and increase advocacy for women with disabilities, even when it comes to sexuality and conversations around pleasure. Even our work around the photography work that we do, where we are, expressing ourselves and things like that. Everything, builds on the other, and you cannot take away one component of an activity and say, you focus on just sexuality and not focus on empowerment. People need to, generate income so that they're able to feel good about themselves, so that they're able to express themselves and have control over their bodies and are able to demand better services when it comes to healthcare and reproductive health. So for us, we have seen that it is building blocks and everything is connected, and we cannot, we cannot prioritize one over the other. It's the woman that we work with, and if we're looking to ensure this woman is able to take a space and is confident and rebuild her self-esteem, and she's able to participate fully in the society, then we need to look at our work from a holistic standpoint. And that's how generally we have approached, the work around technology and how it feeds onto, the other areas of our work.
Great, thank you so much. Jo, would you share your views on tech and pleasure?
Yes, thank you. I agree that online space brings so many opportunities, and especially for learning, if that's the attention that people come to the online space with, that they want to learn and engage. But I also feel that it's another space for controlling our bodies. And depending on who you are, where you're posting content from, it's very much related to your safety and security and how we are online in a responsible way. Because in the past couple of years, even with pole dancing and how it expanded, and with the OnlyFans, how it actually affected people who this is their only livelihood. So that a lot of people can join online without that responsibility and the accountability to the folks that they are sharing information with, and how then it's in a context that we don't have much space to explain or engage deeper. And for me, I feel those are the things that are important to note. I have to say, when the pandemic started, I was part of an online yoni workshop with all of this people who experience pleasure through vagina from all around the world. And we were online and we were having, collective orgasm. And it was amazing for me. That one session was really great. It was in an anonymous way. And really, people who were facilitating that, really intentional and aware of security risks and all of that, and how to welcome people in the space. So I see people online doing that, and I'm learning so much, but at the same time, I feel so much pressure to be online. My work really doesn't need to be there. And the way trust is built through the work that I do, sadly it's in person, but also in very intimate spaces. It could be online, but in a really different way, that people will trust me in that process. And especially in my context, that access is huge thing, even the language and the time that people can dedicate for this. So I think that there's, for me, I still prefer to be like a low-key practitioner of this work and connect with people in different ways, while I still get to learn online and, appreciate a lot of the people that are influencers online and how they're vulnerable and how they express themselves, as both Lindy and Lizzie were saying, because there's opportunity for that. It doesn't leave much room for mistake, and that's, something difficult online, but I would still, I appreciate it.
When you said you had a collective orgasm, I had a vision in my head of a global groan, and I was like, that's pretty cool. But I'm glad you brought up the pandemic, because that'll bring me to my final question for everyone here. And Jo, I want to start with you, since you transitioned us into this area. How did the pandemic affect your views around pleasure, how you access pleasure? Did it make you more adventurous? Did it pull you in? How did the pandemic affect, within your context, your pursuit and attainment of pleasure?
I think it's really important what has happened in past 2 years, and that we see a lot of pleasure activists online now speaking about this, but at the same time, so many things are being more and more commodified. And I think that's the first part of how we experience pandemic in the Balkans, where I'm from. It's really similar to our context in general. So it was not really different, because we've been in war for so many years and in conflict. And when you're in that space, they shrink your desires to be so small, so that you haven't had access to water, to housing, to your friends, your family, to all those things. So your desires need to be the things that you can buy now, the things that are, within that realm of what that's society is going to impose on you. So what happened in the pandemic that I see in my context was, again, the things that we were missing. And then again, starting to appreciate the nature, the birds, the really small, accessible pleasures that in the next year just went back to what can I afford and buy and give to myself that I couldn't last year during the pandemic. So I think there was a trick around that, how capitalism manages to commodify everything, even our desire in so many ways. So I'm really appreciative that we have this space to talk about it and to go back to the things that, you know, come from us, and like how we reclaim our bodies, how we reclaim our desire, and that it's not related to only our context. How can we imagine things beyond this? And a pleasure that it's long-term, that it's not immediate, instant, and just because there was a pandemic and how we were in the sphere of scarcity, how we move now to needing to have overindulgence. So I know we don't.
That was great. Lizzie, would you care to share quickly?
I think for the longest time I had been engrossed in work, and so I used to love to read, and I think the pandemic reminded me of that fact, and you know, try to immerse myself in books. And I don't have a green thumb, but I like to have green things around me, so I try to do that. But also something Lindy had said earlier, I started taking nudes of myself, just for myself. And I have a collection now. And my husband was telling me the other day, you should transfer these pictures to a safer location, you know, because if you lose your phone and they're leaked. And I'm like, I'm proud of these pictures. I couldn't care if they're leaked. Like, they're my pictures, you know. Anyway, so I'm thinking of starting to paint again. I used to paint many years ago, and I'm thinking of painting my nudes, and maybe I'll have an exhibition one day.
Wow. Oh, that is so cool. I love it. I would come.
Come, okay.
Yeah. COME, not the other one. And Lindy.
I love that. That's so exciting. I would definitely be there too. Like, let us know when it is and I'll be there. But what I really love about this is the fact that this is called Pleasure Beyond Borders, because I never really conceptualized the way in which capitalism commercializes everything. You know, when you're kind of just immersed in it, you just are going with the flow. You're waking up every day. You must make money. You must follow the rules and laws and all of that. And you just go with it. But I really also realized that the more people that came to me to try and understand themselves from a pleasure point of view made me want to understand myself more. So I never used to masturbate. I understand the value and the importance, and you know, just how healthy it can be for others. I've even done a whole episode on it, but it was never a pleasurable thing for me. It was always like the moment I started watching porn or whatever, I would be very intricate in terms of analyzing. I'm like, why is she doing that? And then I want to go and research, and my mind was more just focused on trying to understand as opposed to letting myself go and enjoy. But I learned so much about myself during the pandemic because I was by myself. I was alone. I had no choice but to try and understand myself from not only a sexual point of view, but just like how my mind works. And I realized that I was not able to kind of let go, even in the context of engaging with someone else. And I also realized, as much as I had an orgasm before, I realized I could actually get myself to orgasm more. And did I like it? Was I okay with relinquishing that kind of power, giving it to someone else? How do I orgasm as quickly as I would like to? I kind of manage it more. And there was just so much I learned about myself through other people wanting to know about themselves and coming to me for the answers. And I obviously had to do the research, not only theoretical, but like physical too. So I have since had great orgasms. As a result, it's also made me realize that I have the power when it comes to my sex life, when it comes to how much I enjoy the person who's with me, how I communicate the things I want and don't want, and also not kind of just going according to or meandering according to wherever I'm directed. Kind of just, you know, what is it that I want in the moment? Do I like that? Is that me saying I like it? Or is it because someone else has coerced me into liking it? So I've become a lot more headstrong through the pandemic. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily been a bad thing. I think it's been such a growth point for me. And had it not been there, I would probably still be like, I don't want to orgasm. No, I don't want to give you that power. You know? So it's been really, really interesting, so empowering. And I'm loving the growth. It's a continuous journey. I think now that I've opened the door, I'm just continuing to walk through. So yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Lindy, Lizzie, Joe. This has been fantastic. Thank you for being our guides through pleasure beyond borders. So anybody watching, everybody watching, the Q&A is now open. Our panelists will be there to answer your questions. I know you've got a lot of questions because I still do. And I just want to thank everybody for participating in this panel today. I've had a great time and I hope you have too. Thank you, ladies, so much.
Thanks for having us.
Hello, everyone. Hello, viewers. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I just want to go ahead and remind everyone that the Q&A is open. If you have any questions or even comments, go ahead, drop them in the Q&A. I see from Paola, thanks for the session. Thank you for joining, Paola. So questions are open. If you want to go ahead and put them in there, I will read them to the panelists. But while we wait on that, hey ladies, hey everybody. It's good to see you.
Hi.
How are you guys
So while
doing?
we're doing good. How are you?
All smiles over here.
All smiles. So I have a follow-up question to something that Jovana, I know that we were all like, wow, a collective orgasm. So I have a question for everyone else. And Jovana, please definitely, if feel free to answer this as well. Have you ever had a pleasure experience that frightened you, and not necessarily frightened you like in a scary way, but like surprised you? Is there anything that comes to mind immediately? And I know that's kind of like out there, but is there anything top of the list? Oh, I'll start with Lizzie.
I was hoping Lindy would take it.
I'm taking.
Okay, so the first thing that came to mind, and we're talking about sexual pleasure or just pleasure in general? Because the first thing that came to mind was, okay, first thing that came to mind was sexual pleasure, unfortunately. Just stick with that. The first and only time I had an orgasm, well, through penetration sex, like that was the first time ever. And it scared me. It was such a foreign experience. And later found out that, you know, majority of the women actually do not achieve orgasm through penetration sex. And it's more, you know, through oral sex and things like that. So I felt normal, but, you know, it hasn't happened ever. It hadn't happened ever, and it hasn't happened since. And it seriously scared the daylights out of me. Like I didn't know what was going on. It was the most intense experience. Yeah.
I feel you. I'm waiting to be framed in that way. I haven't yet, so power to you.
It's just the one time. So.
The one and done. Lindy, what about you?
Mine was from an anal orgasm. I don't know if it necessarily scares me per se, but it definitely was something that completely threw me off. It actually happened this year. And I was just like, I didn't realize that my body could feel that kind of pleasure from that act. It also is not something that I had regularly or consistently done prior. So I was like, I think it was the sheer audacity of it all and the, oh my gosh, am I really doing this? And it happened all at once. And my body was just like, whoa. Yeah, I don't think I've ever experienced anything that crazy.
That's awesome. Wow. Joe, what about you?
Well, now when we open it like this, well, as a, I don't know. I think one of the things that I did not expect for myself to be scared of, is that magic wand thing, like one of the vibrators that like moves like this. And I got it as a gift from one of the lovers, and I could never use it because I was like, I'm scared of this. It's gonna ruin my things down there. Like I don't think I know how to drive this. And I just recently, a couple of weeks ago, I finally used it. And I sent a message to my friends. I was like, oh my God, I was scared of it. It was like about like, it's going to be shredding things down there. Will I be able to recover? But I used it and I had this orgasm that I never felt like that before. So I shared it with all of my friends. Like, listen, it's actually magic wand. It's magic wand. So this is not an ad for a magic wand, but it's good. It's good. You just need to, get used to it a bit and not be scared. But for me,
it does kind of look like a meat mallet. Yeah.
No, it's not. It doesn't look pleasurable, but it is. Yeah. Now I'm doing better with it.
Good for you, leading the way. Okay, so we've got some questions in here now. Let's see. With feminism, there are debates, and this is from J. Pore Sophia. Within feminism, there are debates between what Gail Rubin would call sex negative and sex positive people regarding whether practices such as BDSM can be enjoyable in themselves, or if enjoying them comes from patriarchal structures of power. What do you think about where pleasure comes from and how it relates to power dynamics? And this isn't addressed to anybody in particular, but I guess I'll open it up to whoever wants to answer.
Okay, I'll go for it. You know what? Patriarchy can definitely affect and influence so many different aspects of our lives, not just sexual. And I think it goes down to what you are exposed to, one, in the home, and what influences your decision making the most, and how that could also potentially affect you later on in your sex life. And I think that's also why it's quite important for us to not necessarily dub sex or sexual views as negative unless it is harming someone else. Anything that does not have consent, I believe, is harming the next person, and therefore is something to maybe potentially dub as negative. But I feel like pleasure comes from different places in different ways, and it affects people based on so many different things. It can be environment, your upbringing, religious or cultural beliefs. It could purely just be what you've watched on TV or lack thereof. So everyone's views will be different. And I just believe that when you're engaging with someone, if you are also communicative and everything is being done with consent, you may find that someone may have the same views or is willing to meet you at a certain way, and therefore it's not necessarily dubbed as negative, but negative is relative. So I think patriarchy definitely has an influence, but how that affects your sex life is not always necessarily deemed as negative, depending on who you're engaging with and if you are harming someone without their consent.
Thank you for that thoughtful answer, Lindy. That was amazing. The next question comes from Lata DeMello, and I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. It says, for the panelists, what suggestions do you have on pleasure for victims of sexual violence, especially with food? And again, this is just a question that's open to all panelists. Lizzie, I think I want to address this with you or ask, in your experience with the communities that you serve, are there, I know in our work, we definitely speak and write on behalf of women who have experienced sexual violence. Have you had anybody within your work that you've had to work through to get them to understand that pleasure is okay?
Yes, sexual violence is prevalent among communities of women and girls with disabilities, unfortunately. And our experience has been, it's like a very well-coordinated system that is continuously undermining the rights of the woman, because everyone suddenly protects the perpetrator. And it's a very difficult space to be in as a woman with a disability, and us trying to work around, sexual reproductive rights. We have had young women who have not received any support from their families and have had to give birth to children that were as a result of sexual violence. And we are, on the other hand, we're trying to work around, loving your body and exercising your sexuality and your sexual rights. It's a very difficult place to be in. And what we found is we have to address the violence that happens as long as, despite the fact that it might have happened years, prior to us interacting, but we have to address that. We have to create safe spaces where people are feel free to talk about their experience and the fact that their family was not there for them, the people that they expected to protect them were not there. And slowly, I know of a young woman who still is not able to get to a place where she's experiencing sexual pleasure. But I feel like she is able to talk about her experience, and she is able to be there for other women. But when it comes to sexual pleasure, she's still, and I think everyone, goes through things at their own time, in their own paces. And it's important to just create that safe environment and make it okay and acceptable for whenever it is that she would be ready, but also not to remove her from conversations around pleasure as well, because just because she doesn't want to participate doesn't mean that and yeah, so that's how we generally try to approach it. It's a very difficult space to be in.
It's so important. Healing is so important. It's such an important aspect of pleasure. Unfortunately, this is all the time that we have. So I just want to thank you, Lizzie, Lindy, Jovana, for this amazing session. Thank you, AWID, so much for facilitating this discussion. And thank you, everyone who's joined in. Thank you, everyone who submitted questions, for your curiosity and for your attention. Please follow the hashtag Feminist Festival on all social media platforms for all the other events that'll be going on for the remainder of this festival. Thank you so, so much, everyone, for your participation.
Thank you.
Oh, girls, are we it?
I think it's us. I think we're staying behind.
Oh, okay. After class.
You know what's so
You're amazing,
Lizzie. I have a rape support group that I just started
just to say, folks, you're still live because we're streaming this conversation, so you don't want to say anything that you don't want people to hear.
No, I wanted to add on to it. So
yeah.
Bonus content.
Okay. I have.
I think we've said that. We've opened up.
That
there's nothing more we can say. Sorry, Lindy, go ahead.
It's okay. So I was saying.